Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? Can you see the screen? I've posted the course outline. You are 26 students waiting. It's a class of 70. As I explained in this outline that I asked you to review, I don't expect everyone to be here every class, but it is in your best interest to join us. It'll be the easiest to just join us and stay in the live stream. And then you can later use your free time or your non-lecture time to review the video in more depth. Okay, so it's really important to follow along at the beginning. And even if you don't follow completely, it is a 3-hour and 45-minute lecture. So I understand you might have interruptions or, you might get bored, but just hang in there, keep watching. You might catch something and it may make your studying and your progress much easier if you hang in there and stick with us. Hello everyone, great to see you. All right, so I don't know if I mentioned, but I think I mentioned in the course outline that you can use, you don't have to use your real name for the chat or for your YouTube account. If you don't want to, but it makes it easier for us if you use your real name to look at who's here. And I won't be recording attendance, even though that was kind of confusing in the outline. I think someone reviewed my outline and made some changes before I didn't notice. The lab tutor, the lab demonstrator will be recording attendance, however, and he's going to use the same platform that he's going to use YouTube. I sent you Wednesday. And he's going to review. You'll see the problems I gave you today, and I'm going to send you some more problems before tomorrow. And he'll review solutions with you, and then I'll send you the printed solution sets. All right. So there is a little bit of delay. If you do ask me a question in the chat, you have to be patient. I'll get to it because there's I'm not sure how much of a delay, 30-second delay between what I say and what is broadcast. So just letting you know. So yeah, you can subscribe to my channel. I see people subscribing. You'll see there's many videos here. I did teach this finance course, pretty much the same course, except I teach in Puerto Rico, which is the United States. So there are a couple of things that change over there, but you'll notice the difference, and you could use those videos if you want to review as well, or if you want to go ahead with the material. I'll point out what's different between Canada and the United States. It's just a couple of things, but otherwise the course materials will not be very different. I wanted to go through the outline in detail. It is long. There wasn't a way to avoid that because there were requirements that I include certain things in the outline. The time of the lab will be Wednesdays. I'll put it in the chat. It'll be Wednesdays from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. The TA wanted to make it earlier, but I thought we'd stick with the same 6 p.m. time, and you need to be there. If you can't be there, let me know, but you have to make arrangements. You're supposed to make arrangements to be there. I also gave you my phone number if you want to send me a private message. Something not in the chat, just that I might not get to that right away because I'm paying attention to the video stream. So if you want to send me a private message, that's fine too. My number is, I'll put that in the chat. The number is 204-250-2879. Okay, so if you plan to use a name that's different, for your YouTube account, if you plan to use a name that's different than your own name, send me an email about that. Just mention your name so I can keep it as a record and I'll share it with the TA so he can record your attendance. Okay, so it's great to see everybody. We have 40, more than half of the students already. It's 5 minutes. That's good. So you can watch these streams on your phone. You can watch it on a computer. I like YouTube a lot because also it will record and provide captions And that way, if you want to translate the captions, translation isn't perfect, but it can help people who may have a different first language. So I really like that resource. It's a very sturdy platform as well. It's large bandwidth. It could carry the feed. I can actually put 3 hours on here and it doesn't blow up. I will try and take a break, some sort of break every hour or so. I can't promise exactly when it will be. That way you just try not to look at your phone, try not to be distracted by email, or and ask your friends, or tell everybody you're busy so that you can concentrate on the stream. And then I will give you that break if you need to take that break and communicate with people. Someone is texting me here. Hold on. I don't know why. Okay, some people are listening without logging in. That's okay for me, but when you do with the lab, okay, the lab, you have to have an account and log in. He needs to record your attendance in the lab tomorrow, so set that up for yourselves. The labs will just be a review of the assignments, and you can ask your questions to the demonstrator. He will record your attendance. He's going to also answer your questions about the My Lab Finance questions. Okay, so those problems are assignment problems. There are many problems in each chapter, and I asked in the course outline that you only answer 10 correctly to complete the assignment for each chapter, or each chapter in the assignment. And he's going to review each week that you've completed it and give you a grade. So he'll be in charge really of that assessment. Okay, the test, there's 3 tests, and those will be assessed by 2 graders, 2 other people, and I'm going to do my best to keep that as consistent as possible. I think I'll have one grader completely grade one test, and I'll have another grader completely grade another test. That way it's consistent. They will follow my grader key, and if you have problems, you will have to let me know about the grading problems. Let me and the TA know so they can be reviewed immediately. You'll have about 2 days after you get it back. I think that's what I wrote in the outline. You'll have a few days to get back to us about any questions about the grading, okay? All right, so let's look at the outline together. So you guys saw this, the prerequisite. We're going to do the format. So I mentioned that so there's no in-person instruction, just going to be on YouTube during the scheduled time. Labs will be conducted by the TA Wednesday evenings from 6 till 8. And then there's some comments about here. You won't need a camera. Okay, that's not going to be necessary. You're going to only need those for the final exam. Actually, I won't erase it. I'll just leave it there because it includes the final exam. So the final exam is going to be a departmental exam, and it will be using Respondus. So you're going to need the camera, all right, for that. So I did make this outline before I ironed out a few things, but now it's clear. The assignment is the assignment is not timed. You just have to complete it by the end of Monday at 11:59, and problems correctly. So you can do more than 10. Then you can, I will verify, but I think I set it up so you can study from those problems after. The idea is for you to, for people who have extra time or want more practice, they can take more practice. Or if people feel they don't feel so confident, they solve more problems, okay? The TA will just make sure you've got at least 10 problems correctly answered in each chapter. So there is only one attempt. There is only one attempt. I set it up with one attempt. But the repeat that you get to solve many problems will be your to your advantage. There is no attendance recorded for the lectures, Malika, if I said that right. There's no attendance recorded for the lectures. It's only going to be attendance recorded for the labs. Okay, so I said for the labs that you're going to be recorded for attendance, participation, and conduct. And that's just that you come prepared, that you ask questions. I don't know how he's going to notice that, but be actively participating. He's just going to see if you greet him. So just like you're talking to me now in the chat, you're just going to have to say hi or welcome to the TA to let him know you're attending. And he'll go through the chat. The chat gets recorded. He has to make sure it's recorded, and he'll know that you're there. So it's just a way to keep you on schedule and solving problems. All right. I did recommend that you print out the lecture notes and all the materials. Some people might not want to do that. They're comfortable using an iPad. I'm using an iPad right now. This is my iPad. You might be comfortable writing on an iPad. That's okay too. But whatever you do, whether you print out the notes or whether you mark up notes on an iPad, do one of those. All right. Don't just passively observe me solving problems or the TA Yu Chen solving problems. Solve problems. You're going to have to solve a lot of problems for this class. The labs start tomorrow. Yes, Hannah. The labs start tomorrow, okay? If you have a reason that you're going to miss a lab, please let me know. The TA, I guess I should share the TA's email with you. Let's see. I'll write that down right now. 1 minute or 1 second. People are writing me emails. So some people are asking how to find the link. So what you're supposed to do to get here, well, you're already here, so is you're just supposed to look, pick the date. Okay, sorry, someone just wrote me about that. Let me write them. Sorry, just let me write this person. Find today's date in the list of videos. So some people aren't familiar with YouTube, I guess. But I'm using the playlists in YouTube. Okay, so so I'm just answering a few messages. All right, so let's get through this together. Did I finish saying what I was saying? We'll find out. Okay, so I was going to give you the email of the TA. I got distracted by people sending me emails. The TA's email, if you want to communicate with him that you cannot attend or something like that. Where's name's Yu Chen Lin. A minute. And the email, I'll put it in the chat. So I've been doing this for a while. I'm comfortable on YouTube now. If I lose you, so that's the TA's email if you need to communicate. And you can write him and me, okay? That's you. I guess I should put more information. This is TA Yu Chen Lin. All right, so if something goes wrong with the feed, you lose me, just stay put, stay there, and I will have to restart the feed. Like I don't know, my computer's been stable lately, but does crash sometimes. I have a lot of things running, and it is an older computer. I haven't been able to buy one since the shutdown I was on curfew and locked down in Puerto Rico for 3 months, and I did travel to Winnipeg, and I did do my quarantine. I've been here a month now. I just feel better being here giving this course in case something goes, something goes wrong, or I don't know. Just figure it makes more sense to be here. Was able to pick up the textbook and able to get any assistance with personnel because they are meeting with me if I need them. Okay, so some administrative people have been helping me. Okay, so someone asked if there's any assignments for labs. No, Hannah, there's no assignments for labs. So really, you are going to be just doing the online My Lab finance problems. And those will be graded automatically. The idea there is everyone gets slightly different problems. So, yeah. So anyway, you're supposed to work independently for those. You're supposed to be working independently for the tests, but you could work in groups if you have classmates that you know. If you want me to share your email addresses with the rest of the class, you guys can make a group or something, or meet online or whatever it is to work through some of the review exercises. I give a lot of review exercises. I already gave you 3. No, I actually didn't give you anything yet. I gave you just problems, exercises, but there's 3 each week, and they're long, and they prepare you for the tests, okay? And presumably they're going to prepare you for the final. The final will be cumulative. Means everything is up. It could be possibly anything that I asked you from the whole course on the final. The nature of the final, it will be an online test, so it'll be more like the My Finance Lab type of problems where everyone gets slightly different numbers for the problems, and the order of the problems is scrambled. So it's supposed to provide you an independent platform so that everyone has a different test and works independently. Although for the 3 tests, the format is different. I'm going to be grading your method, okay? So that I really think that's important that you get the feedback of what you're doing wrong. So that's what the TAs are going to be for, okay? The TAs are going to grade your tests. I'm going to teach you how to answer problems so that you get perfect marks on your tests. And so for that reason, I'm leaving you 6 hours, up to 6 hours. Now, I'm going to give you the test at 9 a.m. on a Saturday. Some people might be away or planning to be away on Saturday. I'm sorry that I had to do that, but you will have to steal away an hour and a half or 2 hours, because that's all the test should take you, to complete it and send it to me, all right? I asked you to be able to scan the test papers and put them into a single file and send them to me, but if you are, let's say, away and you don't have access to I don't know. You could, if you don't know how, you should learn how. If you don't know how to take pictures of the documents and then turn the pictures into PDFs and then combine them, you should be able to do that. And then send that back to me so I can share that with the grader, okay? So that's the idea for the tests. You shouldn't have to take 6 hours to write the test, okay? You should only take about 2 hours to write the test and send it back to me. I'm giving you the 6-hour window because it's a Saturday and everyone has different responsibilities or needs or, I don't know, schedules. I somewhat own you during the week, like Tuesday through Thursday, but I can't tell you what to do on the other days. I'm just going to highly recommend you be working on this class because we are trying to put the contents of a very intense class into 6 weeks of lectures. Now, this course, most of it, I'd say 80% of it, I taught in 3 weeks. Before I came here, I taught it online. But we had 3-hour lectures every single day. I don't quite have that with you. So, yeah, because with 3.5 hours or 3 hours and 45 minutes, that's only, 7 hours and some each week. That's not even close, right? Because I was doing, anyway. So the point is, we need to be efficient and learn the material well and move on. The material does build. It is foundational. We're going to build that foundation over the next week and a half. And once we've done the first test, I'm going to assume you know that material. So if you need to get a tutor, but you do have the TA at your disposal, all right? So use the TA. Use the TA during the lab times if you need extra time, or if you want to meet with me during my office hours. I've set aside office hours. I call them office hours, but I don't have an office. We can meet online by FaceTime, by Skype, you can just call me, or I don't know if you want to meet with me. I'm not even sure if I'm allowed to. I should check. But if you want to discuss something with me, it would be between 4. Oh, what did I write in the... I wrote that somewhere at the first page. Okay. So I said here between 4 and 5:30. So before the class, I will be online and available to you for Tuesdays and Thursday. So online meaning I'll be in front of my computer, okay? So if you want to reach out, I'll be there. I'm just writing it in the chat. So then I get half an hour to set up and launch the live stream. Okay, so now I've said a bunch of things. Let me just get through this. Let me get through the outline. So the course will be delivered by means of lectures, theory and applications of finance principles. So what I'm going to do is mostly apply theory, and then you get a feel for, maybe I'll pause and I'll explain what the principles are to what I'm doing, and you'll see that in today's class. Whatever I don't cover, let me say it this way. I'm going to focus on the things that I know you need help with, all right? To prepare for the MyLab finance problems, you'll need to read the textbook in advance. So you'll use the textbook to complete that assignment, all right? So you'll read the textbook chapters that I've assigned, and I'll show you the content in a moment. But you'll see that what I teach you will help you in solving most of that. However, the background reading is meant to be that. It's going to contextualize everything that I'm doing. So make sure you make time to read the text and solve my problems using my notes. Okay, so review exercises will be discussed with the TA. So I will give you review exercises, and he'll go through those. And you can also, with time to spare, you can ask about the My Finance assignment problems. Okay, so those will be due, those assignments on My Finance. So I'm not going to put things in Learn. Well, I said I would post notes. Let's see how that goes. I did say I would post them, but I feel like you're logging into so many things, right? You've got the MyLab Finance, and you got the YouTube, and in MyLab Finance you're going to find the digital textbook and the questions or problems to solve. And then I just don't want to give you too many places to go, so that's why I'm sending things to your email. If you have issues with that, if you really want the things in Learn, I'll put them there. I said I would put them there as a repository. We'll see how that goes. If I feel that's really necessary, I'll do that. Okay, someone's asking me about the calculator. We're going to talk about the calculator. Calculator should always be in the end mode, and we will talk about that for people who don't know what that means. All right, so let's see. So the assignments in the My Finance Lab, those are all automatically graded. That will be count towards 10% of your final grade. All you have to do Solve as many problems as you like. You only have to get 10 correct. So when you send it in, if there's like 50 or 60 problems in that chapter and you only answer 10, your grade will show up and it'll look like you did terrible, right? Because you only answered 10. The TA will adjust the grade, or anyway, you'll see the grade adjusted, so don't worry about that. And as far as sharing your grades, I think I could use UMLearn to share them there. I'll see about that. I'm trying to avoid having too many places to go to look for grades and things. So I'll work with the TA to decide on, and I'll let you know where you can see your grades. Okay, so I'm just recommending that you see the TA for problems or ask me. I can help you during my office hours. You can also ask me during class. I'm going to do my best, whatever, to complete the material I give in the week. Anything that's outstanding in the week, I'll teach at the beginning of Tuesday on the next week. The course over the 6-week period, I didn't know how else to do it without having done it like this before. I've never taught just like 7 hours of lectures in a week. So, okay. So I said there will be 3 tests plus the final exam. And as I said, Saturday from 9 till 3, you'll have that window to complete the exam. It should only take you an hour and a half. But so that, and it'll cover the material of the previous week. The final exam, however, will be cumulative, and I don't know the date yet. I need to verify the date and time if that schedule has come out. Okay, so this is really important, and you're going to see at the beginning of the lecture notes, or the beginning of someone asked if I sent the notes already. I did send the notes. Did some people not get the notes? I sent all the notes for today. So if you did not get them, email me. Okay. Email me if you didn't get the notes, and I will send them. I will forward you the notes. Let's resolve that. So email me. You know my email address, I hope. Yes, okay. So for the test, what I want you to do, I'm going to send the test. You'll print the test out. All I'm going to do is send you questions, okay? I'm going to send you the questions, and then you solve on separate paper and scan them or take a picture, but then combine them and send it back to me so I can share it with the grader. Someone's asking about the MyLab Finance. So you should be able to stop the assignment and go back. There's nothing, yeah, it's just you can only submit it once. That should be how I set it up. All right. So someone just asked me, are we able to start and stop during the assignment, or do we have to complete all the problems in one sitting? No, you can open it, and as long as you don't submit it, it'll save your work. So whoever didn't get the notes for today, email me. Oh, you don't have my email address. Okay, we're 52. It's a lot of people to be talking to. Let's see if we can clear up any issues. So some people registered late. I don't know why some people would not have gotten the information. So my email is just this. I shouldn't say late. They just registered. Let's say it like that. It's funny though, because I always seem to have 70 students, so I guess some people dropped and some people, I think that's my email. The test, when you're finished, you'll submit it through the email. Yes, you'll submit your test to email. I like to have everything in my email, not in a... What's going to happen is, I'm just teaching this class temporarily, and I might lose my email, and then I can't get into Learn, and it's just going to be a mess. So it's better that we work with me getting things to my email, and then I can save them in my personal email. Anyway, you'll understand one day. It'll pay off. Someone's writing me. Yeah, no, the documents are not in Learn. I'm emailing them to you. All right, so as far as the book goes, you can use an older version of the book. However, you still need to buy the code, right? You still need to get the code to log into the My Lab Finance, the Pearson problems, to see the Pearson... what am I trying to say? To get onto the Pearson site to answer the problem. So yes, you can use an older version of the textbook. I think I gave instructions for how you can purchase the code. If you have problems with the code, email me and I will get the information to you from the Pearson representative. Okay, if I don't know how to answer it. So I'm just looking. Some people still need the notes. So email me if you need the notes so I can forward you the notes. I'm not sure why that's happened. Oh, yeah, it might be in your spam mail. All right. Yes, there was a big file. All right, so what you have to do, starting today, is begin to accumulate a set of formula, keeping them on a sheet. Now, I shared the first document I sent you for notes. I numbered, let me see what I numbered it. I think it was 0 or 1. I numbered it as 0, finance formulas. So that is an example. That's a sample of what I allow you to bring. If it was an in-person class, you could bring that to the test. You can add to that sheet and use that for your tests, all right? That is permitted. Now, however, you have to print out your formula sheet by hand, all right? So I start you off with the formula sheet I gave you, and you can add to it by hand. You can... Yeah, so I say you can, formula can be rewritten when new formulas need to be added. So you'll see as the course goes on, you're going to have more and more formulas. You might want to prepare the formula sheet differently, smaller text. For instance, you should not be typing out the formula sheet. I cannot verify that, of course, but you should not be typing out in this course when it's usually given in person. The students are not permitted to have a typed sheet with them. But as it goes, I do share the preliminary formula sheet to give you an idea of the core formulas, are the ones that I think are the most important for the class. There are a lot of finance formulas, but really there's only a few concepts, a few separate concepts. Most of the things you learn, you can tie back to the original formula. And I hope that you understand that and appreciate that by the end of the course. So I will reinforce that understanding by sharing a formula sheet with you now and always referring to the formula on that sheet so that you see the connection. Okay, so I actually allowed you guys to use front and back of the paper. So that also, putting everything on a formula sheet and using the formula sheet to solve problems, it's good practice, and it saves you a ton of time. You're not going to be flipping through your textbook and flipping through your notes or clicking through your notes to solve a problem, all right? You need to be preparing for the departmental exam that will not permit you that kind of time. The final exam, I don't even know I think it's 2 hours. I have to verify if it's 2 hours that you'll have to write that. I'm just making a note. All right, so let's see, what else did I say here? So course materials, financial calculator. You should all have your calculator today. If you don't have the calculator, I really want you to have the TIBA2 Plus, the Texas Instrument Calculator. Even better, you know, the HP would be even better, but it's a more expensive calculator. And I say it's even better because it does weighted statistics, and it also does internal rate of return calculation for multiple rates. If you don't know what I just said, that's fine. But if you do know, you can appreciate this is a better calculator, a stronger one. But it's more expensive, and really don't need those features. Okay, so I work with this one, and I like it. I can teach statistics on it, and I'll show you the finance keys, and it'll make your life so much easier. And it is a requirement for the class that you have the financial calculator. Okay, now if you didn't have the financial calculator, I would be teaching you how to use finance tables, which is very outdated and not practical. The other thing I could be teaching you is how to use Excel for finance, but I don't find that very handy at this level. Anyway, it seems it's more tractable, more feasible, or more efficient to use a calculator that fits in your hand. Now, the alternative to buying the TIBA2 Plus calculator is if you have an iPhone, you can purchase the app now. That means you will be using your calculator, you will be using your iPhone to answer test problems, and presumably you're not texting with anybody at the same time, right? But since it's by distance, I'm going to permit you can also use the app on the iPhone. It's about $15. So if you don't have it, if you didn't buy the actual physical calculator, which is like $30, I think. If you didn't buy this calculator, $30 or $40, you can get the app for it and use that from today. Okay? And like I said, it's like $15 or so. I don't think the app exists on other phones, like Android phones. But I know students have tried to use financial calculators from... Sorry, I lost my image. I know students have tried to use other apps on other phones, and I can't promise you they're going to work properly. But the TIBA2 Plus, the actual... the trademark calculator is on the iPhone in an app. All right, so that's up to you how you want to spend your money and how you want to work. All right, so let's see what else I have to say. The textbooks. So someone just asked, can they get the older version? You can use the older version. You just have to buy the code. I think these are instructions for you to purchase down here. So you go to Pearson, click on student, enter this ID, course ID. Okay, so if you don't have the book purchased with a code, you will be prompted to buy the code. Okay, so you could actually use an old textbook and buy the code, old version. Okay, so yeah, I don't know, I feel like someone added these points because you don't need a camera and a mic for the lectures. Okay, so there's all this mention. You will need a webcam for the final exam. Okay, you're going to need a webcam for the final exam, so you have to work on how you're going to get that. If you don't have one, you can borrow one for that period. And again, I don't know when they've scheduled the test, the final test, but it should be between August 14th and August 20th, I guess, some point between that time. By then, I will have returned to Puerto Rico because my classes begin there on the 17th. Yeah. All right, so this is the breakdown here. You see what I've done is given the lab 5% weight, the assignments 10% weight, and they're due before midnight. I should say before midnight. If you send them exactly at midnight, you will miss sending it in because the deadline is 11:59. These are the dates for the test. And again, they'll be due by 3 p.m., but I will share the test at 9 a.m. Notice the value of the test will increase from 10 to 20%. So I go easy on you at the beginning. It doesn't mean that this is probably the most important material because it's foundation for the rest, but I give you some time to learn it well. And then these two tests will be worth 20, and then the final exam will be in Learn. Let me just check my email. Somebody emailed me for the notes. Nope. Okay, so I guess you all have the notes, or you found them, whoever couldn't find them. Oh yes, trust me, you're going to have lots of problems. Lots of practice problems. Somebody's asking me. Okay, so for the HP calculator, if you buy the HP calculator, I really don't have time to give instructions for both calculators, but with what I teach you for the TI, you will be able to figure out how to use the HP pretty much, and then the extra features on the HP, like I mentioned, I will mention how to use it for internal rate of return in class, so you will know how to use it. And for the statistics, the weighted statistics, I'll make a brief mention about how to enter that. So if you choose to buy the HP or borrow the HP from someone, I won't leave you out cold. I'll mention how to use it, but I won't be giving you notes or anything on it. If you want to, during my office hours, you can contact me and we can work on it, okay? I do have some notes on the HP that I could share, but I'm not going to show them in class. I could just email them to you or something like that. So Hannah emailed me for the notes, but I did not get the email. That's strange. Did I give you the wrong email? Okay, let me take a minute here. Give me a moment, please. Please confirm if you got the email from me, Hannah. Okay, I just sent you, Anna, the notes. Anybody else who needs the notes, please email me. I'm just checking something. Sorry. Yes, Hannah, I never got your email, but I just found yours email and I sent it to you, so hopefully you got it. Not sure what's happening. Oh, Tiptoes emailed me too. You guys wrote my name wrong. Longobardi at Manitoba. Using the wrong address? Okay. I'm gonna put. Let's just take a 5-minute break, okay? Anybody else who needs the notes, let me know. I'm gonna take a 5-minute. All right. Who else needs the notes? I gave the notes now to the last set of people. So now I see an advantage of having them in You and Learn because you just go there and get them. Yes, Hannah asked me, so you comment on, you put it in the comments. No, you can just comment in the chat. That will be fine to comment and let me know you're here. If you have any questions, right? And I can see how many people are watching. I see that the whole class is not here because it's only 52 watching, and one of those are me. So that's 50, well now 53. Okay, so let's continue. With the outline, this is the grade distribution that I'm going to use. You have to pass the exam to pass the course, the final exam. So you got to make sure you pass the final exam. Even though it's worth 35%, you have to pass the final exam to pass the class, okay? You cannot miss a test. If you miss a test, you will receive a grade of 0. If you miss a test for a valid reason with medical documentation, you will be able to move the weight of that component toward your final exam. So your final exam could be worth more than 35%. Yes, Hannah, the notes are the PDF docs that I sent you. That's right. Okay, grade appeals for 2 days. Okay, I give you the graded test, and then you have 2 days to let me know that you have issues with the grading. Okay? Usually, I'll prepare you for what you need to, how you need to solve the problems to get a perfect score. What the TA will do is look through your answer and ding you or take off points for the things you've done wrong. Usually that's how it works. So I tell them to take off a half point for a 5-point problem, for instance. Half point for everything done wrong. Someone just asked me about the final exam. The final exam is departmental, so those are common questions for all the students that have already been, the final exam has already been prepared, okay? So those questions will be on the computer. Everyone will have different numbers. It'll be scrambled, that sort of thing. Very similar to the My Lab Finance problems. But what I teach you will prepare you for that as well. So you need both. You need to learn using the My Finance lab problems, and you will learn solving my problems and review exercises as well. You'll see. You'll have more than enough problems. Don't worry about having lack of problems. Yes, the finals were 35% of the final grade. Okay, let's see. If you miss the final exam, that's out of my hands. You have to apply for deferred exam through undergrad program office, okay? Do not miss the final exam. You're going to complicate things for yourself. If it's out of your hands, well, then there's this option, okay? So you need to attend the labs. You don't have to be in the lectures, as I mentioned, but it's not a good idea to miss the lectures, because on the weekends you're going to be doing homework assignments and you're going to be doing tests. Without having seen the labs, you're going to spend 7 hours without attending classes. You will be watching 7, 8, 9 hours worth of video, because you'll go back and you'll have to see things again, and Yeah, don't miss the classes. It's not good for you. But like I said, the lab attendance will be recorded. Okay. So people who didn't get the PDF document sent, haven't seen the course outline, I'm just going through the highlights here. I highly recommend that you print out the lecture notes so you can mark up the pages with your own notes and comments. If you have an iPad where you can display the notes and mark them up, then that's fine too. Okay, I've already mentioned this stuff. All right, so here's the schedule. I will try my best to stick to this schedule, although I've mentioned it's tentative. Okay, so this will be week 1. These are the components, the related chapters. Some of this stuff I won't even talk about. Some of them I will refer to. You'll see. I will give you review problems. You'll notice for the assignment MyLab Finance, as I mentioned, you'll have to actually read the chapters to answer the questions. In terms of the technical problems, you will have enough from my lectures to solve the technical problems, okay? More the theory and background problems you'll need to read the chapters for. That's the same in the next week. The following week, you notice I say review week 1 because I might have missed things, or I realize that there's things I want to emphasize, so I'll go back. So I'll leave at the beginning of each week. I say review the week before. So these are going to be the topics. It's less topics, but using the tools you learn up here. And then we will have our first test. So I give you actually 2 weeks, well, 10 days. 10 days before the first test. So yes, this is going to go quickly. But you get 10 days before the first test. So these will be the topics from week 1. So I'm going to teach you 3 topics here, but you're going to be tested for the first test on this. Okay, so you have time to synthesize, review, and really comprehend what's going on here. I teach you these new topics. And after the test, you have a couple of days to finish the assignment, so then you can review the topics. It's the best schedule I could come up with, and I hope it works. It worked for my summer class in Puerto Rico that I just finished, the 3-week online class, so I'm hoping it'll work for you too. And week 3, so similarly, I said review week 2, anything that's missing, and then I go into the statistics review. I have sent you the notes already for the statistics review because some people had asked to see what I need, what I'm going to focus on. I don't expect you to read those notes. Those numbers start with the 5.1, 5.2, those documents. I will use those documents in week 3, so there's some time for that. So it's a branch of statistics, or it's a part of statistics that we're going to review and then apply directly to finance and cover these topics. Okay, so I see it as a practical way to help you focus or recall from your memory something you've already learned. Okay, but I will review it from scratch. Someone just asked me a question. Yes, it is a lot of pressure. You'll be fine though, because you have 2 weeks to do it, Martin. So don't worry. Lots of topics for the first week. Okay. You'll see, we'll get through the best we can, and we have next week to review, so that's why I wrote it like that. All right. And then the second test, you have to trust me. I've done this course for almost 20 years, so you gotta trust me on some of my decisions here. Okay, week 4 topics, and then your test again on a Saturday. Then you have this week 5 where I don't test you. Okay, so I won't test you. after week 5. You'll just have the final assignment on the 10th, and then you have the rest of the time to study for the final exam. Okay, that's the idea. So the midterms will be more on the lectures, and the final test will be on the lectures and the My Finance Lab problems, okay, textbook problems. So, answering your question, I was answering Annette's question. Okay, this is the schedule. Here, the best I could do, somebody asked me about the other voluntary withdrawal date without penalty. I don't know the date. If anyone knows it, can you put it in the chat? What is the date for VW without penalty? I do not know that. I asked the administrator, and I'm waiting for that response. Okay, and then some assessment information. Integrity, please don't cheat. It will not serve you. It will be really obvious if you cheat. The the graders will point it out to me that you've been cheating. And I made a point here that even if I can't prove it, I am going to be taking double points off for exact errors, okay? And if you've ever graded anything in the past, you'll see what I mean, like keystrokes, like very weird mistakes being exactly the same. All right, don't do that. And I was actually thinking of taking more off if there's more than 2 that are having the same weird wrong answers. So this is to prevent or discourage people from copying other people, because you might be copying the wrong answer. So don't copy, do your own work. And if you have any issues, or if you're nervous, you need help, then just consult me, let me know, and I can meet with you. We can do it by distance, or we can do it, or you can speak with the demonstrator. I don't even know. I will check if I can meet with you. I'm going to ask if people want to meet in person. I'm going to ask the director if that's even possible. I don't even know if I'm allowed to meet with you in person. I don't have, the university's closed. So I'm just going to see if that's even possible, if that's even necessary. But otherwise we can meet through Skype or Zoom, or through Google Hangouts, whatever, and we can work on problems if you're really uncomfortable about the material. But if you're an Asper, you can do this, all right? So I'm assuming you're going to be able to handle this course. All right. I made some remarks about myself at the end. I was asked to, so I put those at the end. You can read about me. Any questions? Any more questions? You can put it in the chat. Yes, the final exam will be with Respondus. I've never done that before. I need to learn about how that all works. But I watch videos on it. I just gotta go through the steps and see how that works. But it will be using Respondus Lockdown, and it should be in Learn. Okay, that's what I imagine the final will be like. The final exam is going to be with your formula sheet, and I'm going to confirm, like, it's supposed to be just your formula sheet, I think, but all the tests are open book. I'm going to confirm about the final. See, that's okay, so I will find out about the camera. And for the final, you will need a camera. Yeah. The final, you need a camera. It's in the course outline. Read the course outline in detail. The only thing that is wrong in the course outline is that for the lectures, you need a camera and a mic. You don't. Okay, and for the lab, you don't either. Okay, all you need for the lab is to be able to let the TA know you're there by writing it in the chat that you're there. Say hello to the TA. Okay? But otherwise, I did mention, I'm going to find out if you can use the calculator from your phone for the final. All right, so what you can do, the phone calculator is identical to the one you buy, the TI BA2 Plus, except, you know, one's on your phone. So if you buy it today to have it for the class, and then you need one for the final test, and you don't want to buy something else, I don't know what to say. You're going to end up having to buy it. But, yeah, I don't know what to say. Just let me find out if it's okay if you use the phone calculator. Okay, I'll ask the chair, the department head about that, and I'll get back to you tomorrow about that. Hope he responds by tomorrow. Oh, see, Nicole knows more than me. Okay, Nicole says it was an update that they changed the past summer term. It is a new update to respondents that includes the camera. That's interesting. I have no idea how they would do that. But okay. Okay, I'm going to find out all those questions. Now, the video that I watched said that you needed a camera. I think Nicole knows better, right? Okay. Any other questions? Anybody else need the notes? I'm going to check okay, a few more people need the notes. Uh-oh, some people just registered. Okay, so someone just asked me about the camera for the final, and again, for respondents, I'm going to confirm whether you really need a camera. Can you hear my keys clicking? The computer key? I just had to write a quick email. And someone just wrote me that they just registered. It's funny because Learn doesn't give me the update, hasn't given me the updated list. Anyway, that's not your problem. That's my problem. Okay, it's 7 o'clock, and okay, so Kyla's saying she needs a camera. Okay, I will find out about the camera situation. I understood from the video I watched that you needed a camera. But I will find out. Lots of different opinions about the camera. Okay, thank you all for your input. Yes, you need the calculator for today's class. You need the calculator. So let's take 5 minutes. Let's take 5 minutes. You guys get organized. I want you to come back. When I come back, we will begin discussing the notes with and in order that I've made them. I guess we can talk about number 1, TVM. So pull that up, figure out how you're going to resolve the calculator situation. I'm going to be 5 minutes. I'm going to get a glass of water. You guys can answer your texts or emails, and I'll check my emails as well. And you guys can either, if you have an iPhone, buy the calculator. If you live in a household with someone with an iPhone, ask to borrow their phone and buy the calculator. Okay, like I said, too much. Or if you live by a Staples or a Best Buy, plan to get the calculator. If you don't have a calculator right now, you can just sit and watch the videos, and then you'll have to repeat the videos with the calculator for practice, okay? Okay, I'm going to pause. Okay, I'm back. Was that 5 minutes? Probably longer, wasn't it? Okay, so I hope you're comfortable and you are going to be undisturbed for the next hour and some almost 2 hours time. We're going to begin the class with a discussion of the foundation of finance, fundamental concept of time value of money. Now we motivate, hold on, my pen is missing. Hold on. Okay. Can't find it. Okay, so the time value of money is motivated by the question, which would you prefer? $1 received today or $1 received next period? So I could create, I could illustrate this. I always run out of space. I have to go find my pen. I'll have to take another break. See where I left my pen. So that's next period. Okay. So which one would you prefer? $1 now or $1 next period? And the more important thing is thinking about why. Okay, so who would choose option 1? Anyone? And who would choose option 2? Today, right? So this is the better option. $1 received immediately. Why? Why is it that we would prefer $1 now? What is it getting $1 later? What's the issue with that? What's the problem? So you're picking option 1. Anybody comment on why would you pick option 1? Yeah, just write me some thoughts that you have. Someone said invest. Why? Why else? Okay, so what? Yes, so you're saying the same thing. You're saying you prefer the $1 today because it's worth more. But why is it worth more? Because you have some expenses to pay, okay. You can invest it, okay, because of inflation, okay. All right, so you guys are getting at reasons why. The reason why mostly is because, or you can summarize it by the fact that you know what it's worth now. You know what $1 can buy now. I could make this $1 million. You know what $1 million is worth now. But you just don't know what $1 next period is worth. Now, next period, I'm saying next period, that could be in a year, 2 years, 10 years. I didn't say what the interval was, right? Whatever the period is, though, I don't know about tomorrow. There's uncertainty. Okay, this uncertainty $1 today is preferred because of the uncertainty. So I'm going to say it like that. Now, you guys have said something about investing, and I'm going to tie that in a second. But it's first because I believe it's uncertainty. You don't know what's going to happen after today. You just know what's going on now. Now, because of uncertainty, because the existence of uncertainty, smart people take advantage or see opportunity in uncertainty. And what they say is, let's create an opportunity. If someone was to delay a dollar consumption or a dollar received today and to wait instead one period, they should be compensated to wait. So waiting I need to go find my pen. Waiting has an opportunity cost associated with. We call it opportunity I have to shrink this. There's an opportunity cost associated with waiting because there's risk. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what things are going to cost. They might change. There might be inflation. Things might go up. It might not be worth the same in that way. Also, the things that you wanted, the things you intend to do with the dollar, circumstances may have changed. You don't know what's coming in your life. You don't know what's coming in the economy. You prefer to have a dollar now. And because of that uncertainty, creating an opportunity cost for people who wait, they need to be compensated if they were to delay waiting. So from that, we have the idea of a premium or a value for waiting. So people who wait, people prepared to wait, need to be promised something. And from here, we get the notion of interest. We get the idea that, well, for someone who's prepared to wait, they'd only do so if you paid them a little bit more to get that money. So let's see. That was just an intro, brief intro. What I want to talk about is going to the formula sheets. I here present you the most basic formulas for finance, and every formula is tied to a timeline, just like the one I showed you. And I show you 0 at the beginning. 0 represents now or today. And then a timeline passes through time to point here. Okay? And I'm going to talk about all this notation, which may intimidate you who have not seen this before. I'm going to make it very clear. These notations are intended to facilitate, to help you. All right? They're not intended to intimidate you. So you see, the very concept I'm talking about is reflected in all these formulas. I just want to show you that. So you can use this formula sheet, print it out, keep it at your side, and I will refer to it often as we get through the first week of notes. And you can use the formula sheet and add formula to it in preparation for your tests. Okay? So when I talk about the time value of money, I'm going to be discussing that very notion that waiting should have value. And people who wait, given the the existence of financial markets will be compensated for waiting. So some people wrote about investing. So if you actually take advantage, if you were to take advantage of financial markets, and we presume in this class that the people that, in valuation, we presume that investors are rational and that they use all information. Okay, so they have perfect information at their disposal, and now has opportunities. You could invest it, you could save it, and it could become more next period. Because it can become more, it's more valuable next period. How much more can it become? Let's say there was a prevailing, and we'll do this often. Let's say there is a prevailing interest rate, and I'm going to use the notation I for interest rate. So some rate. Okay, so say I existed, and you took advantage. Let's say there was only one interest rate. Okay, so I'm going to make it more abstract, even more simple. There's one interest rate existing, and you took advantage of that. If you had that dollar could be worth $1 plus that little extra called the interest. Okay, next period. So now it makes more sense, even more sense, why option 1 is worth more, because it's 1 plus something. Now the something is a rate. I'm not putting a number there, but it could be, it could be 5 cents, for instance, okay? Or a 5% interest rate. So you've probably seen rates in the past, but because this is one of the first courses, this is a core course you take in ASPER. For some of you, it'll be the first. Some of you, you'll be taking this in your 3rd or 4th year. I do presume you know very little, and but we're going to move quickly. So if you don't understand, please let me know so I can clarify. So this is how you see at time next period, the first option is better. Well, what about here? How do I see that here? How do I see that option 1 is better even now? So this should be similarly, I should be able to value this $1 at time now. So this is something we're going to learn about. I'm going to leave this an open question for now, and you'll see the answer as we progress. Okay, so the question mark that I put there is asking, what is $1 next period worth today with an interest rate prevailing of 1%, or sorry, of I%. Okay, so we're going to get to that answer today. So whenever we talk about this question, this sort of question, I will just say to you time value of money. Now, if you look at your calculator, there actually are TVM keys on the calculator. So take out your calculator and see on the third row of the BA2 Plus, there are the TVM keys. It actually says in the final column, clear TVM in blue or in red or orange, depends on the color. Someone asked me. The question was, what was the question mark for? The question mark says, what's the value of $1 today? That's what the question was. I don't expect you to answer it right now. We're gonna answer that together, okay? But that's the question that comes out of here. If $1 is worth 1 plus I next period, which shows option 1 is better than option 2 next period, what is $1 next period worth today, so I can show that option 1 is still better than option 2 even now? Okay, so I'm asking you to look at your calculators. I actually can show you my calculator. I have done this before, and I'm going to try it now. Let's see. Do you see the calculator? I can turn off the back screen. And I'm going to just flash the letters for you. No, can you see the flashing? So you see in the third row that's highlighted, those are the TVM, or time value of money keys, that we're going to learn about today. All right. So what I'm going to ask you to do is we're going to begin the notes 1.2. Now this is I'm going to use the calculator. I'm going to introduce the calculator. We're going to use it as a tool to solve a variety of problems, which by presenting them to you, I'm going to teach you about the formula. I'm going to teach you about how to use a calculator, and I'm going to teach you about financial concepts. Okay, so they're all done in one. It's a very efficient way, I think, to teach a lot of things at once. So we begin here on page 3 with the setup. So pull out 1.2. These are the slides. I put 2 per page. And maybe I can put them in the background of here so you know where I am. And I think I can just turn this on and off. Well, all right, so this is where I am. So we're going to begin by setting up the calculator. And this is an important page, and you're going to want to come back to this, so realize where it is. It's on the 3rd page of the first set of lecture notes, week 1. All right, so you're going to want to come back here if something happens to your calculator, and somehow all the settings have been reset, or if you're having a problem. Now, in 20 years that I've used this calculator in my classes, a couple of students in that time have actually bought defective calculators. So it's not common, but it can happen. In that case, you'll probably want to use the reset button to see if maybe just something is not right with the calculator, and you could probably return it. So by the end of today, you'll know if your calculator is functioning properly or not, and return it if it isn't. But like I said, it's most likely not the calculator's fault. It's maybe you entered something wrong. So if you were to reset the entire calculator, this is how you would do it. This is a clear all. These are the functions. You hit second function, reset, and enter. You will only do this in emergency situations, if your calculator screen freezes, or if you just can't understand why you're getting the wrong answers, and there's some setting that's been made and you can't figure it out. Reset the whole calculator and then run through the setting steps again. So redo the setup. So you're not going to do this often. So that's one kind of reset. This is a hard reset. It resets the calculator to default manufacturer settings. But then there's the softer resets. That's just resetting one component of the calculator. Now the calculator has several memories, and you're going to learn them all. And the one I mentioned to you was the TVM memory. Okay, it's time value of money. if you just want to clear those function keys, and those function keys being the ones in the third row, then you're going to use this button. See, second. Okay, I just press second and it highlights just the blue keys or the blue letters. My calculator isn't updating. I'm not sure why. Let's try that again. That's funny. Let me do the calculator up. There you go. I have to turn the window off there, and then it doesn't do what I want it to do. But can you see this? So if I hit second, you see it does clear TVM. So when you hit second clear TVM, all you're doing is clearing the memory for that row. So that's considered a soft reset. Okay, and similarly, you could clear other features as well. There's also a worksheet in the calculator. I don't know if you saw that. My cutoff, it froze on the calculator. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I can hear you guys and it keeps on streaming for me. So I'm just going to continue. I'm not going to flash my calculator because it seems to cause issues. Okay, so on the calculator you see the TVM. You can reset the TVM keys. And then there's also a worksheet. So there's like a spreadsheet in the calculator, in the financial calculator. And that spreadsheet can store cash flows. And those are found, well, there's the cash flow from the second row. There's a CF. You see that? In the second row, you can enter cash flows and do a bunch of things with them. If you just want to clear that, you clear work. That would be found second clear work at the very bottom corner, bottom left corner. You see clear work. Now this doesn't all make sense to you right now, but I promise you, you have to come back here if you have problems, okay? Why is it buffering? Let me see. Yeah, it looks like it's doing some weird buffering. It says I have an excellent connection, so I don't know. I'll just watch that. I'll watch on the screen here. Okay. I'm here. Okay, if you want to... Okay, so those are clearing different functions, and why you would want to do this is because if you're solving a problem that's a time value of money problem, and then you go into the worksheet to solve for something, you will not have to lose your stored values in the time value of money row if you make a mistake in your worksheet. You can just clear the worksheet of cash flows. All right. We want to work with 9 decimal places in this class, and you'll see the relevance of that as we move on. To set your calculator up to have 9 decimal places, and that way you can check your answers that they are exactly like mine. You'll know you did the right thing in solving problems. To set that up, you hit second, format, 9, and enter. Second, format, 9, and enter at the top, and now your calculator is set up for 9 decimal places. So do that, and what you can do is check that it's working, that it's properly done. Take 11 and divide by 9 and say equals, and you should be able to see all the decimal places. So all these clears, if you want to clear, just clear the screen, you use CEC at the very bottom left. Okay, that's a regular clear. That's clear screen. So you can see all the decimal places. If you do that, 11 divided by 9, you see 1.2222. So you can have 9 decimal places on your screen. And you can't use more. I just tried to put second, format, and a different number. No, you can. The most you can have is 9 decimal places, so that's why we're going to set it to the maximum. All right. You should do all of these steps right now, Maria. Oh, Mariah. You need to do all these steps now, yes, just to familiarize yourself. And for the last 3, we need to set the calculator up for all the problems that I teach you. Okay? So you do need to do these steps now. Okay, so when you do this, you should be able to see the 9 decimal places. So maybe you don't understand what any of this means right now. You're going to understand it by the end of these notes. You'll know what all these things mean or refer to. Okay, is everybody caught up? The next thing we want to do, so stick with me, stay close. The next thing we want to do is set up the calculator that compounding occurs once per period. Again, you might not know what that means. That's fine. Essentially, interest that we talked about, that little extra you have to pay every period if you borrowed money, and that little extra you get paid if you've waited by loaning money or investing, the little extra you expect to get, it can count. It would, if you leave that amount there in an investment or in a savings, or if you leave an outstanding balance to be paid there, interest will compound. Okay? And depending on the period, that's set, you will have to specify the compounding frequency. Now I'm going to set up the calculator and I'm going to solve problems so that compounding takes place at the same time that payments take place. Now again, that will make more sense in due time. So let's set up our calculator because this is not a default setting. We need to set it up to do this. So we want to set it up second P by Y, which is in the TVM keys in the blue on the top of the second key from the left. And you tell it 1, enter. So that sets it so the compounding occurs one time a period. So if you got it in the HP, if you're working with the HP, the clearing is different, yes. Yes, I already told you I recommend the TI because that's what I'm going to instruct in. But if you have the HP, I'll dig up my notes and I can send them to you. I think I have notes for HP. So email me if you want HP notes. They're going to be slightly different from these for solving problems, but anyway. This is my preferred calculator. Okay. The last thing we're going to do, are we all caught up? Your screen should show P by Y. It should look like P by Y equals and show 1. On the HP, it will show you that when you press down on the calculator keys. On the PY, it'll show you. All right. Oops. Why did I do that? All right, so finally, and somebody did ask me about this, we are going to assume cash flows, and I guess I have to define cash flows as well, and I'll do that momentarily. Cash flows, the amounts that we're going to discuss are received or paid at the end of a period. Now that's not necessarily straightforward because some payments, if you think about your personal finances, that there are your personal expenditures, you will pay your rent, for instance, at the beginning of the month, right? So that's a beginning of the month thing. If you have a subscription on your personal account, you have a subscription of some sort to magazine or some online service, some game provider service, or some subscription that you have will actually ask you to pay at the beginning of a month or at the beginning of a year. So it's not necessarily straightforward to think that payments, whether you're making them or receiving end of the month, sometimes they're going to be at the beginning. So what we're going to do in this class is assume they're at the end of the month, not at some point in 2 weeks or 3 weeks in the middle of the month. Oh, I'm getting a warning here. I just got a warning about the connection. I don't know why it's doing that. I don't know if I have to touch. Maybe I have to touch the screen. All right. So I just got a warning. Okay, so what was I saying? So we're going to assume that payments are at the end of the period unless otherwise stated, unless I tell you so, okay? That they're at some other period of time. So now you need to tell your calculator that the calculator default is set for end of period payments. If you want to turn that off, Are you there? I don't know why it's doing that. That's not good. I'm having issues. I'll have to look into that, why it's cutting out. I'm noticing now. I don't know. I have a recording here of, yeah, it has gone off a few times. Are you guys all seeing the stream? Anyway, it's not stable. I'll have to look into the situation. Okay? So hang in there. Okay. So the calculator is by default set to the end of the period. But however, if we need to change it so that payments are at the beginning of the period, these are the steps that you will follow. Okay? So you use second, begin a second set. So again, if you ever have to do this and you don't remember how, come back to this page and you can see it. You might even want to put this on your formula sheet to remember, although I don't encourage you to put on your formula sheet, numbers you press, so maybe I shouldn't say that. But anyway, this is where you find it. Second, begin, second set, okay? So let's do that. Thank you guys for saying it's working for you. Okay, so hit second, begin, second, begin, BGN. BGN is on top of, it's in the TVM row on top of the PMT key. So second, begin, second, set. What do you see on your screen if you do that? What do you see on your screen if you do that? I'm just waiting to hear back from you. What do you get? Second, begin, second, set. What do you see on your screen? Begin, BGN. Okay, very good. Now you see begin in the upper right corner of the screen. So that's to warn you or to indicate that your calculator is in begin mode. Once you've solved a problem in begin mode, you need to get out of begin mode. Okay? You need to return your calculator to end mode. Why? Because the rest of your exam or the rest of your assignment will be solved incorrectly. You will have all the wrong answers. All right? You will have all the wrong answers for the rest of your test. And it's going to be really hard for the grader to mark, and the grader will get really frustrated and probably dock you a lot of marks. So how do you get it back to end mode? What do you think you do? Exactly, Keaton. You just repeat the same steps. Second, begin, second, set will put it back in end mode. Okay? And it'll clear the screen. There won't be anything on it. And that's how you want to begin the class, in end mode. And begin all your exercises in end mode. All right, so do that. Make sure your calculator has nothing on the screen. So it's second begin. I'll do it to my calculator too. Second begin, second set, and clear. And you should just have a 0 on your screen. All right, so there it is. If you have repeatedly solve problems, getting answers different from mine, go back to this page and reset your calculator. All right? There's one more memory. We talked about the TVM memory, the worksheet memory, and then the settings. And now we're going to talk about storage memory. Now this is another kind of memory. This is very useful. We're going to be working with interest rates with many decimal places. Now, even though your calculator displays only 9, because you set it up to display 9, it will keep in memory up to 25. Now, banks and other financial institutions will also be using very elaborate, sophisticated computers that can store many more decimal places. Okay, so we want to make our problem solving as realistic as possible. We want to work with the decimal places in memory. So we're going to store intermediate results of our problem solving in the storage keys to retain all those decimal places, just like the financial institutions would. All right, so how do we do that? So let's see. This doesn't make as much sense until you apply it. So you put a number down, you store, and then you put it into one of there's 10 slots of memory. Okay, so let's say we want to store, let's store the number 9. So we're going to write 9 store 1. So we're going to store 9 in storage 1. Then you can clear the screen. The storage keys, okay? You can clear the screen, and then you could say 11 store 2. And then you can clear the screen again. And then have your calculator, so you stored these values, stored 9 into 1 and 11 into 2. So that's in store 1, store 2. Now we're going to take 11 divided by 9 like we did before. Let's take 11 divided by 9. How would we do that with the storage keys? We would say recall. So recall is RCL. Recall 2 divided by, this is a button, divided by recall 1, and say equals. And you should get the answer that you know. Okay. And you get the answer from before. $1.22222. Okay, 9 twos on your screen. All right, so that's how you use the memory. Now, if you wanted to see those stored memories, you use the key second store. So you hit second and mem is on the bottom, and you can scroll through with the arrows at the top, and you can see what you've put into memory. And you can see all 10 memories from M0 to M9. Okay, I'm going to repeat the recall steps. So we're going to store 9, store 1. So you write the number 9 and then you hit store and then you hit the number 1. These are all separate keys. And then clear the screen. And then do the same thing for 11. We're going to put 11, store 2, clear the screen. And then you're going to say 11 divided by 9 using the recall. So recall 2 divided by recall 1 equals. And you should get this answer. Okay? Okay, so most people got it? Good. Now, that's really important. That's going to turn out to be very handy, and I'm going to use those storage keys in my problem solving. Make sure you can see the memory here. So hit second, you know where the second key is. Mem is in the bottom, and the arrow keys are on the top. And you can scroll through. You can see M0, which would be memory 0, memory 1, memory 2 as you scroll through. Okay, it'll show you. Now, how do you erase memory? Is there a clear memory button? I wonder if you are in memory. Let's see if this works, because I might have forgotten. So if you're in memory, so if you're looking here, you're like looking at the memories and you're scrolling through and you hit second, clear work, I think it will clear your memory. Yes. So the clear work is the clearing key for any worksheet. So just like the cash flows that we're going to discuss are in one worksheet, memory has its own sheet too. So you need to open up the sheet and then hit clear work or second clear work, and it will clear everything out. Let's say you just want to clear one of the memories. Then I recommend, just put a 0 over top the one that you want to change if you wanted to leave all the rest the same. Let's say you made an error. So just do 0 store, whichever one is the error. Did you understand? So let's say that this was an error, like it was, you put 6 instead of some other number, then you should just use 0. You want it to override that. 0 store, well, in this case, memory 0. Okay, because this would be the number. Actually, I won't write that, it might confuse you. Okay, so if you wanted to change this to a 0, you just override the memory. You don't have to clear all the other ones in case you just made one mistake. All right, so what I've done just now, I spent 20 minutes or so on these keys that you've never used before. It's just your first pass through. So now you know where this information is and how to do this. When we get to using these and applying or using these in solving problems, then you might want to go back to these pages if you don't remember how to do it or you didn't understand what I was talking about just now. So have no fear, you will see this many times again. Okay, let's talk about cash flows. So cash flows, unless you have a question. Any other question? Any other questions? Do you need to clear the work that you just did? Sure, you can clear it all out. But don't reset your calculator, because the settings in the setup that we did, we want to keep those, okay? So don't clear this, but if you want to clear the stored memory, sure, just be in the memory and hit second clear work and erase it all. So as long as you're in memory, as long as you're here and you see this storage, you should be able to clear that up. I found my pen. My stylus is right here. Okay, very good. Okay, so cash flows. Cash flows will be considered money in your pocket. In terms of the calculator, money you get, money you receive, money that goes to you will be considered a positive amount. The calculator needs to know that. And again, it's something else I'll explain as we do the exercises. You'll need to indicate positive cash flows, money to be received, with a positive sign. So identify this key on your calculator, you're going to need to use it. In the case of negative cash flows, you're going to have to press it to get a negative. All right? So negative cash flows are items, money paid out, payments made, or money owed and paid. So this button will get you a negative. Click it again and you'll turn a cash flow into a positive. All right, so you need to know that. Now I'm going to explain this slide in a bit. I want to start here. Now I kind of flashed this timeline in front of you. It seems very basic when you first look at it, but it can get very complicated working with timelines unless you straighten out the setup, okay, how we've set things up and what these values actually mean. So I'm going to begin here. Remember I told you time 0 will be associated with now. So you see a 0, you think now, immediately, okay? And time 0 now is the beginning of period 1. Period 1 transpires and ends here. So notice this large tick mark indicates end of period. Just like our calculator in default is going to consider cash flows as end of period. So cash flows will happen here. This would be end of period 1. Notice I don't say years or months, or I don't say anything else. I just call it a period. Okay, so that'll all be specified in due time. I'm just going to refer to it as periods. So we're at end of period 1. Now, end of period 1 is two things. It is the end of something, period 1, but so it marks the end of period 1 and the beginning of period 2. Kind of obvious, but kind of not, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take for granted that you're going to be good at seeing this any point in time. You're going to be able to see it as the end of something and the beginning of something else. So you're going to be able to look back on the past, and you're going to also be able to look forward to the future. Period 2 begins here at the end of period 1. It transpires and ends with the tick mark period 2. So I'm going to mark at the top of each interval end of period. That's going to be the standard. At the bottom is where I'm going to indicate cash flows. So amounts either paid or received, depending on the scenario that we discuss. All right. I want you to draw your timelines when solving problems. The timeline will help you salvage points. You will be able to receive part marks if, for instance, you interpreted a problem incorrectly and your timeline was wrong. However, you were consistent in solving the problem, referencing or looking back at your timeline. So yes, you'll lose some points for bad interpretation, but you'll get the rest of the points in solving a problem if you applied your timeline. Now that I'll say that you'll get some points, because if you interpreted a question to make it easier to solve, I can't give you all the points, right? But you'll get some part marks. So always draw your timelines. It'll help the graders give you credit for solving problems. So here we begin with a time value of money problem. I'm going to solve each problem. I'm going to demonstrate the notation that we're going to use. And then we're going to use the calculator. Sorry, we're going to demonstrate the formula you need to use. We're going to take the formula. We're going to insert the numbers for the problem into the formulas, and then I'm going to show you how to get your calculator to solve the problem for you. However, you also will need to know how to analytically solve the problem. So you'll have to have an idea of how algebraically to solve the problems. All right, so I'm asking a lot, but it's for a complete understanding. You can't just be dependent on the calculator and memorizing steps. That's not where we're headed here. I really want you to understand the formula, and you're using the calculator for efficiency, right? To solve without making a mess in a short period of time. So the contents of this course should be able to help you write the CFA exam. And so you're going to have to be efficient in answering that exam if you were to take it. So I have to prepare you to answer things efficiently. So here's the question. Although in the real world there's abundance of interest rates that someone could take advantage of, when I solve problems, or when I give you problems to solve, I'm going to simplify things. I'm going to abstract away from the complexities of life, and I'm going to present you with a single rate most of the time, okay? By the end of this course, you are going to actually be able to derive a rate for purposes of the firm, for the firm's needs, in terms that you'll better understand later. Sorry. But for now, I'm going to give you the interest rate. So the prevailing interest rate is 8%. A very simple problem, you might think, but we're going to answer this in a very sophisticated way. What is $1,000 invested today worth in 2 years? Now, I don't want you just to jump to the answer. We're going to use this exercise to motivate the formula, the underlying formula that we're going to use in the more general cases, when it's not just 2 years and it's not $1,000 and it's not 8%. In general, let's use this example to derive a formula that we can use in general. So $1,000, so here's my timeline, 0, 1, 2. It's $1,000 invested today. I put the amount here on the bottom. How much is it worth over here? And then I ask you, give me the answer in simple interest and give me the answer for compound interest. So what do these mean? Let's clarify all of this. First, part A, how much is $1,000 worth in 2 years? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 1,000 and I have to pay 8%, the person who invested 1,000 is going to have to be paid 8% on the 1,000. So when you have a percentage, right, you have to multiply the decimal value, or the decimal version, onto 1,000. So that's great. What I want to do with this is, before I get the answer, I want to just show you, which most of you already know this. I could factor that out, and I could say that's the same, or let's do this a little slower. If I could write that as, that's the same thing, right? So 1,000 plus 8% on 1,000 is the same as 1,000 times 1 plus 0.08. Does everybody agree? So the 1 from here on out, whenever you see this 1 beside an interest rate, you always think the principal amount, the $1,000 that was invested. And then this is the interest rate for every dollar invested. So this is the factor. This is the accumulation factor. Everybody's cool with that? Now that's only 1 year. Now if we leave this in the in a fund, or however we invested it, we leave it with the we leave it to accumulate, then this continues to accumulate interest into period 2. So what would period 2 look like? In period 2, I'm going to clean this up a bit. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. I want to clean this up. So here, for period 2, it would be 1,000 plus, no, let's do that. It would have to be the same thing, but now we're taking the principal from period 1 would be 1,000 times 1.08, and then we would have to put on another 1.08. We should have to accumulate another factor of 1.08, right? So we would take this amount, which is the same as 1,000 times 1.08. I know this is easy for probably half of you. Just bear with me. It's important that we get this straight. Okay, so this amount is going to go and accumulate one more period. So I do the same thing again, right? So when I see this could be simplified. I could just write this as 1,000, 1.08 to the 2. So this is a formula. What is the pattern I can derive from here? Well, that 2 is the same as this 2 up here. So 2 periods of accumulation of this factor on the principal amount. So we can write a formula without the exact numbers, and it's going to look like this. I'm going to use the terminology that you have in your TVM keys. Future value at time 2 is equal to the present value at time 0, or principal value, times 1 plus I to the power of 2. Let me do that again. 2. So that's a formula that represents the time value of money that we spoke about before. Okay, so this is a simple time value of money formula for 2 periods. What if we were to express this in an unknown amount of periods? Why am I using 2? Wouldn't this be the same for any time t? Yes, it would. So for this problem, it was just 2. But in general, I could write FV, everybody's with me, I hope, t, for any time t, should be equal to, I struggle with that stylus. Principal amount 0 times 1 plus I t. So that's for any time t. It doesn't have to be 2 years. It could be, I'm trying not to let it look like a lowercase t. And it keeps on, it won't let me. Ugh. Start over. There you go. Okay, so notice 0 plus t equals t. That's very important because sometimes I won't start a timeline at time now. I might start it somewhere else. The important thing is that the subscript here and the exponent here add to make the subscript here. You're going to see that in my solutions a lot. So if you didn't understand anything I just said, don't worry too much. We're going to repeat this many times. So this is our first formula. This is the basic time value of money formula to solve the basic time value of money problem. And you can see that formula right here. So this is back on page 6. Here's the formula that I just wrote. Now let's go through and define each term and relay it to your calculator. The third row of your calculator, in the third row, you have the symbols that I've outlined here. From left to right, I put them going down. N indicates the duration of the investment, or T in the formula. So N for the number of periods, let's say. I by Y is the interest rate per period. Y for year, but it's not necessary that we're functioning in the year. Periods could be months, they could be quarters, they could be different things, but that's what I think the Y is. So this is the interest per period. PV stands for present value or principal value. You can think of it. I'm going to worry about how I spell this. Is it principal? The principal amount. Is it principal or principal? This is funny. Since I moved to Puerto Rico, my English. Principal amount. I know I'm on a tangent. Okay, yes, with an AL. I always learned that principal was with a friend, a pal, but anyway, the principal amount. The payment is the next amount. Now, in our problem, there was no payment. Did you notice that? It was only a lump sum amount and it grew. Okay, so payment you're going to see in this problem when we enter this, we won't use this key and I'll show you how to override that key. FV for future value, and remembering we've already from the setup set payments to be 1 payment per period. We're not using payments, but just to make a point. Now, you guys can see all of this, I hope. Okay. So now we've done this, solved this problem. You could see all of that. And let's solve it. Let's get the answer. Now you're going to be tempted. Some of you probably have already found the answer, rushed to get the answer. But what I really wanted to derive was the formula. And now you could punch this in your calculator. Some students will use more than one calculator. They like to use the calculator where they can type this in. Well, that's fine. I do want you to be able to type this thing into your calculator. You should practice with the TI BA2 Plus using the y to the x key for exponents. You know how to use that to solve for this problem and get this answer. So can you guys try, punch it in and see that you get this answer? Anyone not getting the answer, let me know. So this is the analytical or the mathematical solution, not using the finance keys, because that's what I want to use next. So you should be able to punch this in just using the regular keys on the calculator with the y to the x button. So let me know if you have trouble with that. Now let's punch this in our calculator using the third row, the TVM keys. Here are the steps. Now let's work through it from left to right. 2 goes into the number of periods. For interest, 8. Now notice you put in not the decimal value. You put the percentage value. So it's 8%, you put in 8. Don't forget that. All right, so PV, the principal amount, is invested. Because you're investing it, it's coming out of your pocket. That's a negative cash flow. It has to go in as a negative into your calculator. It's not critical for this problem, but there are going to be complex problems where both sides of the formula have values entered, and to tell the calculator to indicate which values are cash flows, inflows, and which ones are outflows. Investment, it means it's an outflow of $1,000. So you press negative 1,000 and enter it into PV. So the number first and then the TVM key. There are no payments in this problem. It's just one lump sum. A lump sum amount. There are no intermediate payments. So we don't ignore this key. We override it. We put a 0 inside and say there are no payments. Then we use the compute key, which is in the upper corner. We ask to compute future value, and this is our answer. So punch that in, and then I'm going to show you what I want to see. I want to review the situation. So this is easy. Some of you are yawning or watching Netflix. Just hang in there. This is all relevant. And the way I'm teaching right now, I'm going to continue to teach, so it's going to build up. So please, I'd like to keep your attention to save you time, really. To save you time so you have quality time to do other things. So you guys got it? Got it. I need you to have the exact decimal places that I have. If you don't have the exact decimal places, you did something wrong. Okay, I'm going to repeat. Just this page. So, from left to right on your calculator, we're going to enter first the number of periods. So 2 and then hit N. Then for interest, enter 8 and then hit interest. Oh, back here. Okay, some people are asking about back here. Okay, so how to enter this one? To enter this one, okay, let's do this and then I'll go back to the other. Okay, Yashvi. Okay, so to put this in your calculator, you have to do 1,000 times y. Actually, you could do 1,000 times 1.08 y squared. You have a key. That's a y square key? Or isn't it? Y squared or x squared? Let me see. X squared, sorry. It's an x squared key. Okay. And then equals. That should give you the answer. Okay, I'm going to talk about which one I recommend and all that in a minute. Okay, so that's how you do this one. Or you could do 1,000 times 1, maybe I guess a bracket 1.08 y to the x 2. It's a little longer. Close and equals. I don't know that you need the brackets. You might not even need them. Okay, so that's how you solve that one. Did you get that? So for the financial calculator, to get the right answer, you need to tell the calculator okay, so first you need to enter 2 into N, then 8, the percentage, into interest, and then make a negative 1,000 using this key into PV. Then press 0 payment, and then compute future value, and you get the number. Okay? I'll just wait for the rest of you. So cash outflow is a negative. Now because the result is a positive, it balances the equation, and this is what you get because you waited, you invested, and you realized this accumulation of 8% every year. This is a positive. That's an inflow. Yes, you have to hit 1,000, then this key to make it a negative, and then hit PV. I'm just waiting for you guys. And then I'll go back to the other questions. So, Senna, in solving the problems, in solving problems in general, it's always nice to have enough time on a test to be able to solve them two ways. The most efficient is the one with, the lower chance of error would be, obviously, I think, is to use the calculator if you know how to use it properly. For the test situation, You must do this. You must show me the formula. You must show me the timeline. And then all you have to do is use the calculator to get the final answer. Use the finance keys to get the final answer. If you continue to avoid using the finance keys, you will not be able to do a lot of this course, okay? However, you still need to know how to do it analytically. You still need to know how to enter this, but I'm not going to ask you that very often. So you should practice it because you need this skill. However, it's going to be the financial calculator, the TVM keys, and the financial functions that are going to get you through this class. So I don't need to see this. You don't have to write this down on your, you're not going to get any points for writing this on your test, okay? So no points for what you put on your calculator. Oh, I can't match up with this thing. I have to make it. That's why script is easier. No points for indicating keys. Okay, you don't get any points for indicating which keys you use. So you will get points for, you need to put this, timeline, and the answer. That's it. It's not a lot. So all the rest in between, you don't have to show me, unless I ask you, show me your work, show me your derivation, show me your calculation. Otherwise, you just do that. All right, so are we on to the next part? That was part A. Now B is, show me the simple and the compound interest. I'm going to give you 5 minutes to think about it. Take a break. This will be our last break. We have an hour to go. This will be our last break. 5 minutes. Get some water. Answer your texts and think about these exercises, the last two. And you can write me some questions in the chat so I can look at those and prepare to answer those. I want to answer now these two parts: simple interest and compound interest. What are they? Which calculator? The financial calculator? Mariah? Is it Mariah or Maria? These ones? For the financial calculator, you press the number 2 and then hit N. You press the number 8 and the interest, so from left to right on the TVM row. Then you hit 1,000 and then change it to a negative 1,000 and then hit PV. Then 0, hit payment. And then compute. Compute is in the upper left corner. And ask for FV. So notice you went from left to right, all the keys. You did them in order. N, I by Y, PV, PMT, and FV. All right? And that's it. So let's take 5 minutes. You can write your questions in the chat and take a 5-minute break. I'll be back. All right, is that 5 minutes? Okay, 5 minutes is up. Okay, so we're going to answer the question about what is simple interest and what is compound interest. So, from $1,000, our $1,000 grew to the amount $1,166.4. You see what I was telling you? That little bit of extra you get. In this case, it's $166.40. So that's the total interest. The total interest in dollars there was another question somebody asked me, and I'll get to that in a minute. Hannah was asking me a question. So the total interest paid to you or earned was $166.40. And now the question is, which portion is simple and which is compound? Does anybody know? I'm going to write it here as well. So total interest is $166.40. That's how much more than $1,000 you get back after 2 years if you took this investment. The simple interest is just the amount as though I didn't care about compounding. It's just taking the $1,000 and saying, well, it's 1,000 times 8% each year for 2 years. That's what is simple interest. So when I talk about simple interest, it's ignoring the compounding effect of interest. And that is just the 160. But what's the difference? That leaves you $6.40. This $6.40 is called compound interest. And where does it come from? Does anybody know where it comes from? Does anybody know? Like, this is not a lot. Doesn't seem like a lot, right? $6.40. But what if it wasn't 1,000? What if it was 1,000,000? Aha, that's another 3 zeros. It's a lot of money, right? 3 zeros would make it, you have to move the decimal 3 place. That's like $6,400. So interest, compound interest can really be large. So where does this come from? Well, yes, it comes from taking the total interest minus the simple interest, but where does it come from? Why does it exist? Yes, it's the interest on the interest. Yes, you guys are telling me. It's the interest on the interest. So this is actually, what was the interest in the first year? The interest in the first year was $80, right? Because it was 8% of 1,000. It was $80. And if you take 8%, so the interest on the interest, if you multiply that, you'll get $640. So it's the interest on the interest. And you can imagine if you have many periods, this really piles up. I don't expect you to calculate it the way I just did it. That was just to demonstrate that's how I got this number. You can just do it this way, total interest minus simple interest. This is the formula you need on your formula sheet, okay? So simple interest is just the present value amount times the interest rate as a decimal value times the number of periods. That's simple interest. The total interest was found by taking just the difference of the, it was $1,000 principal. So it was future value minus the 1,000 to get this, right? Total interest. Yes, Mariah, it's 1,000, PV00, yes. I mean, it's 1,000. Okay, so that's really important. I'm going to bring this up again and again. So now you know it, it's written, and think about it. Okay, we solved our first time value of money problem. We solved for the future value. Now we're going to solve and answer my question mark on the first handout, the TVM handout. Here's the problem. Again, the interest rate that we're going to use is 8%. But the question is, what is the value of $1,000 to be received in 2 years? What is it worth today? What is it worth today? Okay, so algebraically, oh wait, I have to go back. Okay, so somebody was asking me this question. I'm not ready to answer that question about isolating variables yet. I'm going to do that in a second. Okay, so this problem, if I think about time value of money, so when I say time value of money, you should think about this formula. Remembering that this plus this make this, okay? So T periods of accumulation bring me to the future value of time T. So this version of the formula solves for the future value, but what if I want something different? I want the present value. Well, I can use the same relationship, but isolate for this variable. I'll get a different variation on the formula in doing that. So you can see algebraically, I could show you, I could manipulate this formula to give me a different formula. I could write this as, if everybody can see it, okay, so that's, I've just algebraically, I hope your algebra is good. It doesn't have to be amazing, but as long as it's good, you can see all I've done is isolated for PV. I move this under here, and I get this expression. This form I refer to it as accumulating. This is the accumulation formula. This version is known as discounting. Everybody okay with the mathematics of it? If I ask you to show me your work, if I ask you to derive the analytical solution for the principal amount or the present value, you should show me this formula. But in general, it's fine to use this formula and use your calculator and solve for this instead of future value, which I'll show you how to do. But you should also know that I could write it like this, and I will express answers like this. Okay? So you should be comfortable with it. So this is known as discounting. It's taking an amount and, how do I don't want to say what I'm discounting. I think that's the only way I can say this. It's discounting. So where does it come from? What are we doing, in fact? What is the idea here? Because I could just apply the formula and give you a number, but let's think about this. In our world, in this world that I've created, there's an 8% prevailing interest rate. I know that $1,000 is to be received by the end of year 2. What is that worth to me today? So I'm secure, I'm 100% sure that in 2 years I'm getting $1,000. So do I sit around and wait for the $1,000 when there's 8% interest available? And that's the only interest rate there is? What could I do? What added value does $1,000 in 2 years provide me? Remember, we talked about uncertainty and all of that. All that uncertainty has been alleviated because now in this world, 8% exists. Well, how can I take advantage of that? What is the opportunity available to me that $1,000 is coming in 2 years? The opportunity available is that I could borrow money against, this is the terminology, I borrow against the $1,000 that I know is coming. So how much could I borrow today? This is the question. How much could I borrow up front today? And then knowing later I'll have $1,000 to pay it back. How much could I borrow today? That's the idea. So what could it be? If I was to take the $1,000 and discount it for 2 periods, I would be figuring out the principal amount. That principal amount is the amount equivalent to what I could borrow, and then know that because I'm going to get $1,000, that's what I'll owe the lender. If you didn't understand what I said, you can rewatch this video. I think it's really important that you get where this comes from, okay? What we're saying when we do this. So mathematically, let's carry this out mathematically. Let's use our financial calculator and let's talk about the result. So what we want to find out is PV0. What is it? So it's just like the question mark I put on the time value of money handout. I want to know the value today of this being received. What happened to my, of this amount being received at the end of year 2. So I would be discounting this. So this is like this is my question mark here, right? What is the PV to make this work? I could plug it in and algebraically solve it. You could punch this into your calculator. You want to try and do that. This is 1,000 divided by 1.08. Again, you can use the x squared button and say equals, and you should get this. So this is algebraically, you could get this answer. And now let's talk about, so make sure you can get it. Let's talk about the meaning of the answer. And then I'll put in my financial calculator, and then again I'll tell you what I expect to see on an exam, okay? So hopefully you've punched it in. So because of the 8% interest rate, and because I know $1,000 in 2 years, I could borrow $857.34 and do whatever I wanted with it. And then when I get the $1,000 in 2 years, I pay the lender back the $1,000 because that's what I owe him. If you take this 857 and accumulate it for 2 periods at 8%, it will become $1,000. That's how I figured it out, because going backwards, it becomes 857. Okay, so somebody asked about rounding. Just follow the instructions that I give you on any kind of on any of the exercises. So when you're practicing following the instructions. So usually my final answers, the final answers I request will be with 2 decimal places, but you should never, almost never, round any intermediate steps, okay? To ensure you get the same decimals as me. So just follow the instructions. It's usually the case that I want 2 decimal places for dollar answers and like 4 decimal places for interest rate final answers in percentage, or 6 decimal places if I ask you for the interest rate in decimals. Anyway, you'll see in the instructions what I expect from you. So you follow this discussion then? The value of $1,000 in 2 years is $857.34. Why? Because I could do something now knowing I get 1,000 later. I could borrow this money because at an 8% rate, I know that I will have to pay back 1,000. And because I'm getting 1,000 from somewhere else, I can use it to pay off my loan. All right, so what do I expect to see on an exam? I expect to see, if this was the question on the exam, I expect to see this timeline. Well, okay, I expect to see this. I expect to see this. Or even just as, you could just write it as the same formula with the 1,000 here. The same time value of money formula like this, I would be fine with you writing. As long as the formula has the values in it, I'm happy. So this, or in this form, I want the timeline, and I want the final answer. What I want to see on a test. Now to go from here to the timeline to here to the final answer, you don't have to necessarily use your calculator and show your work. you can just use the financial calculator and show me the answer. So let's use the financial calculator. Remembering that in the future we're getting $1,000 in 2 years. So 2 is N from left to right. 8 is the interest. PV we leave blank. Just leave it blank. Override payment. There are no payments in this problem. There are no intermediate payments. All it is a lump sum. This is a lump sum problem. A lump sum of 1,000 is to be received in the future. And notice it's received, so this is a positive. And then ask your calculator to compute for you the present value. And it will show you the negative sign. Why does it show you a negative sign? It's showing you that that's what it would be worth to you. So if you had to, so this is another version of the story. If I knew I was getting $1,000 in 2 years, how could I get that $1,000? I would have to invest this amount to get $1,000 in 2 years, right? I would have to invest, so that's the negative, cash outflow, to get $1,000. Or the other version of the story that I just told you, if I know I'm getting $1,000 in 2 years, what value does it have to me? I could borrow against it, $857.34, and then pay back $1,000 later. In that case, I should use a negative here. So depending on the story that you're telling in your mind, you could enter the values. Just remembering that if you put a positive on one end of the equation, you're going to get a negative on the other side. So the question was, can we say that interest rates change the time value of money? I think that's what he means. Yeah, I guess the interest rate does. It affects the value of your money. Yes, I guess that's the answer. Okay, so there was the question about isolating. So as I said, unless I ask you to show your work, you can just present the formulas with the values inside and show me your answer, and that's fine. Okay, you don't have to show all the steps. You don't have to isolate algebraically unless I ask you to. So in preparing for those kinds of problems, you should know how to conduct the algebra. But my focus mostly is on understanding, recognizing the formulas to solve problems, and then using your calculator to do what algebra would have done for you, using your financial keys in particular. I've taught this course before, and students just resist using the financial key, and it wastes a lot of time. So I encourage you to start practicing with them now. So this is known as discounting. We're discounting when we do it like this, when we're solving for the present value rather than the future value. So review that part of the video, okay? I'm going to go on to the next problem. So in this expression, the basic time value of money expression, remember, we use the form future value. I introduced it as future value of t equals principal amount now, 0, accumulated for t periods. So that's the basic time value of money formula. That's how I'm going to refer to it. What we've used it for is to solve for FV. Then we just use it to solve discounting for PV. And that leaves two more variables, t and I. I should be able to isolate and solve for those variables too. So let's see. How do we use our calculator, our financial keys, to do that? So someone just asked, what does PMT mean? Hannah, I don't know. Are people hearing me? So it's a debate against, I know my connection is having issues because looks like every 15 minutes I'm having a warning of some kind, and I'm not sure why. But I hope you can hear me now, Hannah. It seems like people can hear me because they're speaking with me. Okay, so what's the meaning of PMT? Is it normally 0? No. So Susing asked me PMT. So PMT means payment, and we haven't worked with payment yet. You'll see that in a minute, okay? See if before we leave today, I'll show you an example with payment. But we haven't used it yet. So far, all we've worked with were our lump sums. All right, so let's solve this problem. Let's solve a new problem, or let's solve a new variable. So there are 4 variables in this formula. There's the future value, the present value, the interest, and the duration time, t. We just solved for 2, and now let's look at solving for interest, but knowing the other 3. Okay? Financial security sells. Okay, so something sells. A financial security sells for $900 today and promises to pay $1,000 in 2 years. What is the rate of return on this investment? A financial security sells for $900 today and promises to pay $1,000 in 2 years. What is the rate of return on this investment? Here is the timeline. Timeline, 900 is paid today to get 1,000 in 2 years. What is the implicit return? What is the interest earned over those 2 periods? This is the basic time value of money relationship between a present value amount accumulating to a future value amount. I want to know what I is over 2 periods. So in a test situation, you would write this, you would use the timeline, and then just give me the answer. Okay, unless I asked you to isolate I. Would you know how to isolate I? Can you guys do that algebraically? Let's isolate I, and then I'll show you how to do this on the financial calculator. So if I was to isolate for I would write, I'm going to skip a few steps it seems, but it's 1,000 divided by 900 equals 1 plus I squared, right? So I can cancel these, and I get 10 over 9. So I'm just going to leave it as 10 over 9. And then I want to do the square root minus 1 equals I. So that is algebraically how I could solve it, put that in my calculator to find the answer. What answer do I get? So if I ask you to show your work, if the question says show work, you have to do this. So I would write 5.04, no, I did it wrong. 5.4 09 0.93% if I wanted 4 decimal places. That's how you would solve that if I asked you to show work. If I said if I didn't say that, you should carefully now enter into your financial keys. So what's the catch? What's the trick? The trick is cash flows. You put 2 into N, you leave interest blank, use negative 900 as the investment into PV, present value.
Someone just asked me if you use different variables, if you use R for the interest and N for the time. That's perfectly fine, okay? You can use R and N. I don't mind. The TA should know. That's not a difference. There's no difference. Okay, so then negative 900 into PV. Again, overwrite payment. There are no payments in this problem. Positive 1,000 into face value or future value. And then ask to compute the interest rate. If you aren't careful and make this one a negative and this one a positive, or the other way around, positive and negative, whatever the case, they have to have opposite signs. Then compute the interest to get the answer. So try and get that. So that's the catch. If you get an error, it's because you forgot about the cash flow. So, you have to specify. The calculator needs you to balance the equation. Now notice your answer, when you write your final answer, in this case, it's just the percentage. But I should be clear that when I want your final answer, you don't mention the negative or the positive as the cash flow, right? You just give me the final answer. I never mentioned that. But in entering into your calculator, you have to be careful about the signs. So for instance, here in these other problems, sorry I'm jumping, but you don't mention the answer as a negative. You just say 857.34. Okay? And the other one similarly. The signs are just for the calculator. And we did solve it analytically, algebraically, without our calculator. We did it on the page previous. Okay, so you guys are quiet. I'm going to pass to the next one. So this is the last variable. We solve for present value. We solve for future value. We solve for interest. What about time? Can we solve for time? Okay, the question is, if we use the calculator for solving problems, then we only need to show a timeline. If you use the financial keys of the calculator, well, anyway, you should always show the timeline, okay? Always show me your timeline. And if I ask you to show your work, you need to show me all the algebra, isolating for the variable on one side. If I don't say show your work, you just give me the answer. And there's some other problems here. Is the present value always negative? No, I mean, if you're investing, you use a negative as the present value. So I'm not going to check what you punch in the calculator, okay? I'm not going to be able to check that, and I'm not interested in that. I'm just giving you tips on how to use your calculator. If you enter a negative as your present value, your future value will be a positive. Basically, that's what you should take away from this discussion. And I'm using these storylines to help you, to explain why it would be that way. Okay? So a negative investment results in a positive return. You get a negative
cash outflow, in other words, results in a cash inflow later. That's a positive for the future value. I don't know why people don't hear me. Anyway, I'll have to work on that. What's going on with the connection down here? Not stable. Actually, I haven't had a warning since... Oh, I just got a warning. But I didn't get a warning for like an hour. It's pretty good. I'm not sure what's happening, why it's buffering. Might be my connection. Or it might be your connection. Okay, let's solve this problem. So how much time does it take for an investment of 1,000 to become 10,000? So here's the formula. This is what I expect to see. You write the formula like this. And then I want to see your timeline. Notice I use the 3 dots here because I don't know how much time. I can't draw any tick marks. So I just do dot, dot, dot. And then I can solve this algebraically or analytically. Let's do that below. And then we'll use our financial keys. So to solve this, I would say 10,000 divided by 1,000 equals 1.08 t. So 3 of these cancels with 3 of these, and so you have 10 equals 1.08 t. That's an 8. And so 10, sorry. So now what do I do? So that's the best I could do. Now how do I solve for t from this? What's the inverse operation? So to isolate, we need to do the inverse. The inverse operation of exponentiation is logarithm. So we would have to take the ln of 10 equals, now that brings this down, ln of 1.08. So this is not pretty if you don't remember how to do logarithms, but it is doable. So isolating then for the t, I'm going to bring it to this side, is equal to ln 10 divided by ln 1.08. Now let's plug that in to get our answer, and then I'll show you and how you can appreciate the financial calculator. That's an ln. So to punch this in, you hit this is a point. You hit 10 ln divided by, I guess you have to use brackets, right? 1.08 ln bracket equals. So you put the number first. That should give you the answer. What do you get? Right, 29.92. So this is 29.92 years. All right, very good. So let's punch that in using the financial keys. Again, being careful about the negatives and positives. And we don't have, so leave it blank. 8 goes into interest. 1,000 with a negative in front goes into PV. 0 into payment. And 10,000 into future value. Then compute N and you get the answer. That's it. Again, if you put a positive here and a negative here, it also would have worked. You just have to balance out the positive on one side and the negative on the other. The cash flows have to be resolved. So make sure you can get that, and we're on to, I want to do net present value in 5 minutes if it's possible. Okay. Everybody gets it with the financial keys? So remembering, for the test situation, unless I tell you to solve analytically or show all work, you just write this, you show me the timeline, and indicating financial keys will not get you any points, so you don't have to show this. You just got to show this formula with the values inside. If you show me the formula with no values, that's no points. Okay, just values in the formula and the final answer with the timeline. Always show me the units as well, years for instance. Okay, I'm moving on. Hoping you got that. Let's talk about net present value. What is this? Before we go. So you believe that if you buy a hotel for $3 million today, you can sell it in 5 years for $4 million. The interest rate is 8%. Should you buy the hotel? So how can you visualize this problem? Here's the timeline. $3 million cash flow outflow today results in $4 million cash inflow in 5 years. So in between, you hold this asset, the hotel. How do we evaluate this problem? Should we buy the hotel? Being aware of the time value of money concept. So the way you should think about this is like 2 options. Either you can spend your money, $3,000 on a hotel and get this, or because of financial markets, there's an opportunity cost to doing that, right? You could have put the $3,000 into financial markets, investing or saving, however you get the 8%. So I'm going to put it in financial markets and earn 8%. That's so at 8%. So we'll refer to it as financial markets. So what would you get if you put $3 million in financial markets? What would you get here if you use that option? I'm waiting for you. I'm not speaking. If people are wondering why they don't hear me. How much would you get if you put the 3,000 in financial markets instead?
How would you figure that out? So you would take 3 million it would be 3 million times 1.08 to the 5, right? Which would give you, right, to the power of 5. So you would get $4,407,000, $984, I'll be more precise, and 23 cents. So, which one should you do? Right. So you should do option 2. You should invest in financial markets. In other words, you shouldn't buy the hotel. Okay, with these anticipated cash flows, so again, when I write these problems out, I'm assuming these are expectations, or these are I've made a number of assumptions to figure this out. Let's say these are the facts. It turns out that it's more valuable to not buy the hotel. It's more valuable it's worth it to invest in financial markets instead. So that's one way to solve the problem. One way to solve the problem is use the future value calculation to solve it. However, in finance, we prefer to use the net present value rule. What is the net present value rule of financial markets and hotel in the future? I'm going to combine this future cash flow with the present cash flow in one single calculation, and that gives me the net present value. The net present value is the initial cash flow, so CF for cash flow, and little 0 means for the initial one, or the now, what's paid, plus the present value of future cash flows. And how do we figure that out? Oh, we know how to do that. That's just that discounting formula. So when you put these two together, what you're doing is you are discounting this back here, and then you're adding them. So you're taking the discounted amount so you're using the idea of the prevalence of financial markets, right? This is how we talked about, or I introduced the concept of discounting. Because financial markets exist, this $4 million means this amount now. So I now have converted $4 million in 5 years into present value dollars. And then I add them. So you could enter this algebraically into your calculator, where this is a negative because it's a cash outflow, the $3 million purchase. And this is an inflow later that I've discounted to time 0. And I add them together. I could punch those in my calculator just like that. Or I can use my financial calculator. So what I'm going to ask you guys to do, now the answer to this, okay, we're already past time, but the answer is going to be a negative, okay? I'm going to leave this for you guys to practice, and I'm going to ask the TA to work with you to solve this tomorrow and to solve some other problems tomorrow. Your result should be a negative, okay? You're negative because we already know that we shouldn't invest in this. It's not worth it. It's better to go, if we realize the opportunity, we should see that $3,000 is better invested in the markets than investing in the house. So the rule is, if the net present value is less than 0, do not invest in the opportunity.
So you can practice this before the lab tomorrow, and you can look at some of those exercises that I sent, the first review, and see what you can do with the first review, and ask the TA your questions, and I'll see you on Thursday. We'll pick up from here, although you can do some work with the TA, let's see, on net present value. I'll let him work with you, and then I'll pick up where I left off. So you might be a little advanced. Then I know you'll have to tell me on Thursday's class where he left off, or the notes. He won't touch these notes, but I'll just ask him to work with you on entering this into your calculators. Okay, so that's our first class. Hopefully we'll finish these notes. We'll probably finish these notes on Thursday, so you will have you'll have a lot to do on the weekend. Okay, and let me know if you have any questions. I'll stay in the chat for those people who have to go. Have a good night, and those people who want to remain in the chat, you can ask me some questions. I'll stay back 5 more minutes. Okay, have a good night. Bye.